Imagine this. It's late at night, and you find yourself again gently swiping through your social media feed. You tell yourself it's just for a minute, a quick check before bed. But one video catches your eye. Maybe it's a funny clip, or perhaps someone dancing in a way that's, let's say, captivating. You pause for just a moment longer than usual, intrigued. Suddenly, as if on cue, your feed begins to transform. The next post is another just like it, and then another, even more provocative. Before you know it, an hour has passed. Your heart's beating a little faster, and you're left wondering, how did I end up here again? Here's the real secret. This didn't happen by accident. Your momentary pause, that tiny flicker of interest you showed, was all the algorithm needed. On the other side of your screen, sophisticated systems noticed you lingered on that one spicy video. So they said, "Hey, you like that? How about we serve you 10 more just like it?" And they did so without hesitation. That's the power of algorithmic exposure to suggestive material. The unseen triggers woven into our social media experience. Now, let's take a step back and think about what's really happening here. These platforms, be it Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or any other, are not just passively showing you content from the people you follow. Nope. Behind the scenes, there's a kind of digital puppet master pulling the strings. It's tracking every like, every pause, every share, every second your eyeballs stay glued to a post. Why? Because attention is the name of the game. The longer you stay, the more ads they can show you and the more money they make. And they've figured out that one surefire way to keep you on the hook is by feeding you content that triggers something deep inside. Curiosity, lust, outrage, you name it. Whatever makes you engage. Think about it like this. You're in a giant digital candy store. The algorithm is the storekeeper, and it knows your taste buds better than you do. If it notices you have a sweet tooth for, say, sugary content, perhaps pictures of attractive people or sensational headlines, it'll start handing you more of those candies. Not all at once, but one by one, luring you deeper into the store. The first piece tastes good, so of course you want another. The storekeeper smiles, metaphorically of course, and keeps them coming, each new piece a bit sweeter or more eye-catching than the last. Before long, you're buzzing on a sugar high, oblivious to how many candies you've devoured. But here's where it gets interesting. This candy isn't just harmless fun. It's doing something to your brain. Science has shown that when you see things that excite you, whether it's a risque photo, an outrageous news story, or even just the thrill of a notification, your brain releases a chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is the feel-good neurotransmitter. It's the same chemical that gives you a rush when you eat your favorite dessert, win a game, or fall in love. It's also, not coincidentally, the chemical that spikes when people use addictive substances like nicotine or cocaine. Yep, the same pathway. So each time that algorithm serves up another tasty morsel of content and you feel that little thrill, zing, a tiny hit of dopamine for you. Now, dopamine in itself isn't bad. It's a natural part of how we learn and enjoy life. It's what tells our brain, hey, that was good, do it again. It's why eating sweet fruit in the wild was helpful for survival, or why connecting with others feels rewarding. But these social media algorithms have turned that system against us. Remember how I called your feed a digital candy store? Well, imagine if you had an infinite supply of candy bars at your fingertips. You might start eating more than is good for you. And after binging on candy for hours, you wouldn't feel so great, right? The crazy thing is, something similar happens in your brain with dopamine. Too many feel-good hits, too fast, and the brain freaks out a little. It says, "Whoa, that's a lot of pleasure. Let's dial it down a notch to keep things in balance." So, if every provocative picture or exciting post is like another bite of candy, eventually your brain responds by lowering your natural dopamine levels. It's as if your brain puts in earplugs to muffle the noise because it's just too loud. You get a tolerance. The result? The next time you scroll, you might need an even more shocking post, or an even cuter puppy video, or an even sexier photo to get that same rush. In other words, the more we consume this stuff, the more we crave, and the harder it is to feel satisfied. It's a vicious cycle. Cravings leading to more scrolling leading to higher tolerance, and higher tolerance leading to even crazier content to feel something. Sound familiar? If it does, you're definitely not alone, and it's not a personal failing. It's a sign of just how powerful these unseen triggers can be. Let's put this into a real-world scenario. Picture a teenager named Alex. Alex is 13 and just got on TikTok because all their friends are on it. Alex mostly wants to see funny sketches or videos about their favorite sport. For a while, the feed shows exactly that. Silly pranks, highlights from last night's game, harmless stuff. But one day, Alex watches a dance clip. You know the type. Someone a bit older doing one of those trending dances, maybe wearing something a little daring. Alex watches it twice, partly out of curiosity. That's all it takes. The next day, TikTok's algorithm remembers and throws in a few more similar dance videos, some even more suggestive. Alex is a little surprised, but keeps watching. It's fascinating after all. Each time, the algorithm is learning, calibrating. You watch that one longer, and you rewatch this other one. Noted. Here's more. By the end of the week, this 13-year-old's feed has shifted dramatically. It's now a stream of content that would make many adults blush. How did a kid's innocent interest in fun videos lead to this? Algorithmic exposure. The system behind the screen found a trigger, in this case, sexual curiosity, and amplified it to keep Alex glued to the app. Now Alex finds it really hard to put the phone down. Those videos create such a strong pull. Even when trying to study or sleep, there's this itch to check the feed, to get just one more hit of that excitement. In class, Alex daydreams not about the math lesson, but about the next chance to see those dancing figures on screen. And if a day goes by without TikTok, Alex feels restless, even irritable. This isn't an accident, it's by design. Think about how crazy that is. A teen's brain is literally being trained by a machine to crave certain content the same way a lab rat might be trained to press a lever for sugar water. It's a conditioning process. The more you pair an action, opening the app, scrolling, with a reward, an exciting or pleasing piece of content, the stronger that link becomes. Psychologists call this a reinforcement loop. Social media companies just call it great user engagement. But it's not just teenagers, and it's not just obviously suggestive content. We all can fall into this trap with one thing or another. Maybe for you, it's not dance videos. It could be outrage-inducing news articles. Ever notice how if you click on one sensational headline, your feed starts showing you more stories that get your blood boiling? You end up on this emotional roller coaster, going from one infuriating article to the next, each more extreme than the last. Or maybe it's shopping. You look at one pair of shoes, and suddenly your social media is a storefront, showing you deal after deal, priming you to want more and more. The triggers can be anything: sex, fear, outrage, envy. But the pattern is the same. The algorithm finds what hooks you, and then it exploits it. And let me tell you, it feels a lot like a casino. Ever notice how you pull down on your feed to refresh it, just like pulling the lever of a slot machine? You have no clue what's coming next. Maybe something boring, or maybe the jackpot of post that hits you with surprise or delight. This unpredictability is exactly what makes slot machines addictive, and it works on social media too. Psychologists call it a variable reward schedule. We experience it as that tantalizing feeling of maybe the next scroll will show me something amazing. That maybe keeps you hooked, fingers swiping, eyes locked, chasing that next hit without even realizing it. Another way to look at it, imagine the social media algorithm is like a personal bartender who has learned your strongest drink. Every night, you walk in, and before you can even say a word, the bartender has that drink mixed and ready, sliding it over to you. And not just that first drink, they keep them coming one after another, each time making it a little stronger because they know you're building up a tolerance. Sure, the drinks are free, at least in terms of money, but there's a hidden cost. After a while, you might lose count, lose control. Before you know it, you're drunk on content, stumbling through hours of posts, not entirely sure how you got so intoxicated. That is essentially what these algorithms are doing, getting us drunk on content that triggers our most primal responses. So by now we've painted a pretty vivid and maybe a little scary picture of what's going on. Algorithms acting like puppet masters or bartenders, our brains getting hooked and rewired like someone developing a drug habit, and time slipping away as we fall deeper into these digital rabbit holes. It might even feel a bit overwhelming to realize how much of this is happening without our conscious say-so. So the big question is, what can we do about it? Are we just helpless pawns in this game, or can we take back control? The good news is you're not helpless. Far from it. The first and most important step is something we're doing right now: awareness. Just understanding that these unseen triggers exist, and knowing that every scroll, every click, every pause is being watched by an algorithm. That alone is a game changer. Why? Because once you see the strings, it's harder for the puppet master to control you. When you feel that sudden craving to check your phone, or that inexplicable pull toward some piece of content, you can step back and think, I know what's happening. The algorithm thinks it has me on the hook. That moment of recognition can break the automatic spell. Instead of reacting blindly, you regain a bit of choice. Here's the real secret to breaking the cycle. You have the ability to train the algorithm right back. It's a two-way street. Remember, it feeds you what it thinks you want. So show it what you actually want, or rather, what you don't want. Most platforms have options to hide or see less of something. Use those. If a certain type of content makes you feel icky, or you know it's dragging you down a rabbit hole, tap that "Not Interested" button. It might feel silly, but it's like telling the bartender, "No more of that drink, please." Also, make a point to engage with content that uplifts you or truly serves your interests. Love nature or art? Follow some inspiring creators in that space and like those posts. The algorithm will notice, and gradually your feed can become more of a garden and less of a minefield. Another powerful strategy is setting boundaries for yourself and your digital consumption. Think of it like a diet for your mind. If you binge on junk content, you'll feel sick later. We've all experienced that groggy, regretful feeling after an hour of doom scrolling or indulging in not-so-wholesome videos. So plan your meals in advance. Maybe allow yourself a fixed amount of social media time per day, or use features on your phone to limit that time automatically. Some people find it helpful to designate certain times of day as phone-free, like the first hour after waking up or the last hour before bed. This can prevent those accidental late-night deep dives that wreck your sleep and peace of mind. Let's take a step back here, in a good way this time, and consider alternatives. Breaking a habit isn't just about stopping something. Often it's about replacing it with something better. If you find you're turning to social media whenever you're bored or stressed, have a list of other go-to activities. Maybe it's calling a friend, reading a few pages of a novel, taking a short walk, or even practicing a hobby like playing music or drawing. These might sound simple, but they can give your brain a different kind of reward, one that's more fulfilling and doesn't leave that bitter aftertaste of regret. Over time, you might find that the urge to check the feed diminishes because you're satisfying that underlying need, be it for connection, relaxation, or stimulation, in a healthier way. Also, try to break the cycle of immediacy that social media thrives on. Platforms are designed to make everything feel urgent. New posts, live videos, breaking news. It's like a constant alarm bell ringing. Look now, you might miss out. But do you really need to see that post the second it goes up? Probably not. Practice delaying gratification. If you catch yourself reaching for the phone out of habit, pause and say, "I'll check in 15 minutes after I finish this task." Often, that little delay can weaken the grip of the compulsion. You might even forget you wanted to check because you moved on to something else. And if you don't forget, at least you prove to yourself that you call the shots, not the app. I want to acknowledge something important. None of this is about demonizing social media completely. These platforms do have benefits. They connect us, entertain us, even educate us at times. And not all algorithms are out to get you. Sometimes they genuinely help you discover great things. But mindless consumption, letting the algorithms run wild with our brains, that's what we're guarding against. It's about using these platforms intentionally rather than being used by them. Think about it like tending a garden. A wild, untended garden will grow, sure, but it might be overrun with weeds. In our case, toxic or hollow content. Your mind is the garden, and your attention is the soil. If you plant good seeds, accounts that inspire you, topics that truly interest you, people who uplift you, and if you prune away the weeds, those posts that make you feel anxious, inferior, or just waste your time, then the algorithm, the sun and water in this metaphor, will help those good plants flourish by showing you more of them. But if you just let whatever blows in take root, well, you get the idea. We have to garden our digital lives a bit. All right, so we've talked about awareness, training the algorithm, setting boundaries, and replacing bad habits with better ones. Let me add one more powerful strategy: taking a break. A detox, even if just a mini one. Have you ever tried deleting a social media app off your phone for a week? If you haven't, it can be eye-opening. The first day or two, you might feel withdrawal. seriously, like an itch you can't scratch. But after that, many people report a sense of relief, even calm. You realize the world didn't end because you missed some memes or trending topics. And when you come back, you can be more deliberate about how you use the platform. It's like hitting a reset button on that reinforcement loop we talked about. If a whole week sounds too much, start smaller, a weekend, or even just one day. Consider it an experiment. Jot down how you feel during that time. Do you feel anxious, bored, or do you end up spending time on other activities that make you happier? Sometimes we don't realize how chained we are until we step outside the prison for a bit. And here's the thing. You might discover that a lot of those triggers lose their power over you once you're not exposed to them 24/7. Out of sight, out of mind can work in your favor. Now, as we come to a close on this journey through the maze of social media triggers, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture one more time. We live in an age where attention is one of the most valuable resources. Entire companies worth billions are vying for a slice of your consciousness every moment of every day. They have fine-tuned machines learning your preferences, exploiting your vulnerabilities, and yes, triggering your deepest instincts, often without you even realizing it. That sounds intimidating, I know. But here's the empowering truth. Your mind is still yours. The algorithms may be smart, but you are always the one with the final say over what you do with your time and attention. Think about that. You have something priceless, the ability to choose. By recognizing these unseen triggers and understanding how the game works, you've already taken a huge step toward reclaiming that choice. You can decide when to indulge in the digital treats and when to abstain. You can catch yourself and say, "Nope, I'm not falling for that outrage bait article today." Or, "I've seen enough of these perfect Instagram models for now. Time for a break." Each time you do that, it's like flexing a muscle, the muscle of digital self-control, and it gets stronger every time. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought, a parting reflection to carry with you. In this modern world, completely avoiding social media might be unrealistic for most of us, but we can change the way we dance with it. Instead of moving like a puppet to the algorithm's tune, imagine leading the dance yourself. The real secret to beating the algorithm is to remember that at your core, you are not just a consumer or a user. You are a human being with the power to shape your own experience. The algorithms, the platforms, the endless feeds, they are tools, man-made creations. And tools are meant to serve you, not the other way around. So the next time you find yourself caught in that late-night scroll, feeling those unseen triggers tug at your curiosity or your cravings, take a moment. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself, I am in control. You might be surprised how much difference that little pause can make. In that pause, you reclaim your mind, your time, your life, bit by bit. And that, my friend, is a victory worth aiming for every single day. Remember, you're not alone in this struggle. We're all navigating this new digital landscape together. But with awareness and intention, you can chart a path that leads you out of the algorithmic rabbit hole and into a healthier relationship with technology. The triggers may be unseen, but now that you know they're there, they don't stand a chance against a mind awakened. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay mindful and stay empowered.